This teacher essayed a 14-year-old student but was determined too pretty to go to prison. Debra Lafave always wanted to be a teacher and got her dream job in 2002 as a middle school English teacher in the Tampa area. After her first year of teaching, Debra met Owen and the two were married only 8 months later. But less than 1 year after tying the knot, Owen got suspicious that his new bride was being unfaithful. He thought that she was having an affair with another teacher and Debra was sleeping with someone at school. But I doubt Owen could ever imagine that that would be a 14-year-old student. At the start of the 2003-2004 school year, Debra started dressing really inappropriately for a middle school teacher, like short skirts and low-cut tight tops, and she started getting a lot of attention from the middle school boys that she was teaching. And Debra did not want to be an authority figure despite going into a career of teaching. She wanted to be friends with her students, like one of their peers. But Debra would still refer to her male students as little boys when talking to her husband or her friends, so it's like she knows that they're children, which makes what Debra did next so disturbing. Debra's victim's identity has been protected, so we're just going to refer to him as Jay. Jay has been described as like a popular jock type. He was athletic and funny, but he's also been described as very immature because, he's 14 in middle school, not even in high school yet. When Jay met Debra, Mrs. Lafave, he had just turned 14 and, he thought that she was really attractive, so he would flirt with her, and Debra liked the attention, so she didn't tell him to stop. The two got particularly close on a school field trip that Debra was chaperoning. And for the rest of the school year, Debra was pretty much by the book grooming this child. She was always trying to get him alone in her classroom. Even though he wasn't one of the students in her class, she would offer him ride homes and also buy him gifts. And Jay began bragging to his 13 and 14-year-old friends that he was going to sleep with Mrs. Lafave. On the last day of the school year, Debra gave Jay detention so they could have alone time in her classroom. During detention, Debra told Jay that she was thinking of him, that she had feelings for him. She lifted up her shirt and then kissed him. Jay went home and called his 15-year-old cousin, that we're just going to call Cousin for this video, and he told Cousin that a hot teacher liked him, but Cousin didn't really believe Jay, so Jay was going to prove it to him. During that summer break, 24-year-old Debra, 14-year-old Jay, and 15-year-old Cousin would hang out while Debra's husband was at work. Debra started dressing like a teenager, using a baby voice, and would even put her hair in pigtails, and she told Jay that the forbidden, inappropriate nature of their relationship was a turn-on. In early June, Debra picked up Jay and Cousin for the first time and brought them back to her place, where she took Jay into the bedroom that she shared with her husband and performed an act on him. Then on the drive home, she instructed Cousin to take over the driving even though he was 15 and didn't have a driver's license, so she could do another act on Jay in the back seat. A few days later, Debra told Jay to meet her at her classroom, even though they had no business being there because school had ended 2 weeks prior. But Debra wanted a private place for them to go all the way. And this was Jay's first time ever. And Debra would statutory S him 3 times in 4 days. The next time was when Jay's 15-year-old cousin was illegally driving Debra's car once again, and Jay and Debra were in the back seat, and 15-year-old cousin was watching it through the rearview mirror. And then the last time was once again in Debra's car when they were parked at a playground while Cousin was waiting outside the car. This all came to light when a friend of Cousin's mom saw him out with an older, provocatively dressed woman. And Cousin's mom confronted Cousin about this, but of course he lied. But then that same night, his mother overheard him on the phone with a friend saying that his cousin was sleeping with a hot teacher. Cousin's mom called her sister, which was Jay's mom, and Jay just admitted everything, so his mom called the police. The police had Jay call Debra so she would incriminate herself over the phone call while they recorded it. On the phone call, Jay said that he was nervous because they hadn't used protection the 3 times that they hooked up, but Debra said it was okay, you don't have to use protection. And then Jay asked if they wanted to meet up again so they could hook up, and Debra said yes. But when Debra showed up to hook up with this middle school boy once again for the 4th time, the police were already waiting for her and they arrested her, and she was facing 15 years in prison. And very quickly this made international news because at the time this kind of thing was still pretty unheard of, and Debra was seen as so beautiful, so this was a huge scandal. Something very controversial that happened after Debra was arrested was some male officers actually forced her to take off all of her clothing so they could photograph literally every single inch of her body as evidence so they could match it up with the way that Jay described her body. And I personally have never heard of something like this. You have to let me know if you've heard of this in any kind of case before. but Debra actually went on to say that this incident felt like she was the actual victim of SA. And very famously, during court, Debra's defense attorney said to the judge that she was too pretty to go to prison. And although she was facing 15 years in prison, Debra walked away with no jail time. Yeah, you heard that right. She was sentenced to 3 years of house arrest and 7 years of probation, but she ended up getting early release on house arrest and probation. And Debra's husband, Owen, did stick by her for a while, but eventually did file for divorce. And this is gonna sound pretty bad, but I actually have little sympathy for Owen. He ended up cashing out on a book he wrote about the situation that he called Gorgeous Disaster, the tragic story of Debra Lafave, where he really paints Debra as the victim and really dismisses all the trauma of the actual victim, a 14-year-old, because I cannot stress this enough. It does not matter the gender of a victim. It's a 14-year-old. If you're watching this and you don't see Debra as a predator, I cannot stress this enough, you are part of the problem, because I don't care if you're a boy and this was your dream when you were in middle school, in high school. If you're an adult now and you don't have a problem with a grown person being attracted to someone in middle school, then you're just a creep. And to this day, Debra has pretty much stayed out of the limelight, even though she was a household name and kind of seen as a celebrity for a while. She thinks of herself as a good person. She is a Christian now, she remarried, she's a mother now, but to this day has never shown any remorse for what she did. And if you watched the end of this video, appreciate you guys so much. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever even heard of this case before? I'm sure some of my older audience definitely has heard of this before. And while you're in the comments, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Until then, love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video.